Good time of day, guys! My name is Godzi, and welcome back to another episode of Higurashi When They Cry console arcs. Last episode, we continued Tsukiotoshi as Rena decided, hey, I'm gonna kill Teppei, and Keiichi's like, actually, make that 3, and Shion's like, what? I mean, okay, yeah, fine, let's do this. So, this is a very wild fucking arc so far. Jesus Christ. It's... it's funny if nothing else, so that's good. So let's see how much further they go with this shit, because I'd expect much further, because we're probably halfway done if I had to guess, but let's just see. The sunset enveloped the garbage mountain. The surrounding area faded from orange to vermilion, and then a deep red, like an omen for our terrible, blood-stained world. Just as we stain our world with loathsome sentiment, everything around us will be dyed more and more red. Oh, that was the end of that chapter. Huh, maybe I should have read that line. It happened, sorry. Alright. So then, Keiichi house time. Is he gonna ask his mom, what is a perfect murder? A chilling silence filled the room. I found myself fidgeting and feeling uncomfortable, even though I was in my own room. Rena sat by the window and gazed out the village as night fell. Oh, you three are still together? We all agreed to meet at my house to put our plan together. But even though it was well beyond our arranged meeting time, Shion still hadn't arrived. Shion wasn't planning on betraying us at the last minute, was she? Oh, great. Doubt plagued my mind. I scratched my hair in an attempt to shake it off. Dull pain coursed through the back of my head, and the strange feeling slowly dissipated. The tea is getting cold. You should drink it quickly. My mom and dad are both out. I've only really learned by watching them, but the taste is probably not so bad. My relatives sent it to us. This flavor is really popular in Tokyo. Rena didn't respond to anything. She just pointed her eyes out the window and stayed silent. I sat quietly, drinking tea alone like an idiot. Even though I drank and drank, it never quenched my thirst, because what I really thirsted for is blood.
Shi-chan is late.
Rena muttered only that. Yeah. Again, we fell silent. Rena slowly licked her dry lips. It made a moist, alluring sound. What the fuck? The way this arc is written is so stupid. Even though I wasn't sure I could stand, I rose to my feet. And at the same time, Rena vigorously turned back.
Where are you going?
I flinched the moment Rena's piercing gaze fixated on me. I'm going to check outside really quick. Maybe Shion got lost on the way here.
Shi-chan's been to your house before, right, Keiichi-kun?
Yeah? Rena continued staring at me as she came closer and closer.
Maybe Shi-chan got scared? Scared?
Rena seemed like she was looking right through my heart as she said that. No way. Shion isn't the kind of person who would break a promise.
What if Shi-chan isn't the person you think she is, Keiichi-kun?
What are you saying? It's not right to doubt your friends, Rena.
Rena trusts Keiichi-kun.
I see.
So you absolutely must not betray me.
Rena grabbed my arm and squeezed it tight. I understand. It's a promise.
No matter what.
Rena filled her hand with incredible strength as she squeezed me. So much that it hurt. No matter what. Struggling to mutter a response, except I guess I didn't, I nodded to her several times.
Rena absolutely will not betray Keiichi-kun either. If I were to break that promise, Oyashiro-sama would punish me next.
After saying that, Rena gave me a sickeningly sweet smile. So one of them's gonna betray the other at some point, right? When Rena released my arm, there were clear red marks on the spot where she was holding me. I still don't fully trust Rena in this. Like, I know we have this whole murder trio, which is super fun and fucking hilarious. But there's still the bloodline, so... Anyways, it looked like a stamp, and it felt warm and tingly. Suddenly, I thought that this mark would stay with me for the rest of my life. After this, we're going to put our terrible plan into motion. Assuming that we're able to carry out this plan successfully. However, our complicity in the crime will stay with us for the remainder of our lives. Our entire relationship would fall apart if someone were to ever reveal our secret. We'll be constantly watching and warning one another to avoid treading the road to ruin. That tense atmosphere will likely follow us until we die. A staggeringly long time, holding onto it for an entire lifetime. A mark engraved so deep that it would last forever. I wonder if my heart can endure that without breaking.
Even if you need to transfer away, Rena will come visit. So you will never forget about Rena.
Rena said that as though she'd read my dispirited mind.
But don't worry.
I'm not worried.
That's right. Because when people from Hinamizawa leave the village, they always come back. It's strange, isn't it? No matter where you run, it always pulls you back.
The sound of me swallowing my spit vividly echoed across the room.
So don't worry, Keiichi-kun.
Rena's words went deep into my heart. There's no turning back. Rena's eyes were fixated on me like she'd never let go. Nothing could turn them away. I can no longer run away. My retreat has already been cut off. I'm already crawling down this road. It's time to walk on my own 2 feet. Suddenly, I heard the doorbell ring off in the distance. Rena quietly nodded to me. I bit my lip as I opened the door to my room. Then I slowly descended the stairs while sorting out my thoughts. Step by step. Creak. The wood felt cold to the touch as it creaked underfoot. Heading down, step by step, just to be certain I'm on the right path. Steadily moving myself forward. There is no other way. Don't look back. You're on the right path. I was filled with a peculiar sense of purpose. I felt no fear, so I'll follow this path. And then, I'll open the door, and our ideal future will be waiting for me on the other side.
Kei-chan!
When I opened the front door, I found Shion gazing at me with a puzzled expression. Howdy. Her eyes were open wide, like she was looking at a total stranger.
You look like a completely different person somehow.
Shion tried to hide her feelings behind a smile, but her unease was clear as day. You're late.
I'm sorry. I got a weird phone call right as I was about to head out.
Phone call?
Yeah, a completely silent phone call. I could hear someone faintly breathing. It was really creepy.
A prank call?
Probably. But thanks to that, I felt the need to be extra careful while locking up, so it took a while to get here. I'm sorry.
Shion quickly bowed her head.
But I was relieved when I saw your face, Kei-chan. I guess you could say, you look just so relaxed.
Shion laughed without reservation. Yeah, I get it. I look like I'm totally in over my head.
Don't be that way.
Thanks to Shion, I was finally beginning to relax. However, Shion and I grew silent as we made our way up the stairs, and the oppressive atmosphere quickly returned. All the actors have assembled. Keiichi Maebara, Rena Ryugu, Shion Sonozaki. The three of us confronted one another from a safe distance and looked over the two cards lined up before us. The first card was Hojo Teppei. Indeed, the main character of the night. Despite not being present, he was the starring role. Unbeknownst to him, his time was quickly approaching. A vision of Teppei lazing about while tormenting Satoko came to mind, and it burned in the fires of my heart. With my emotions boiling over inside me, I turned over the second card. The second card was The Perfect Crime. Those words had a power to them like a magic spell. This crime is necessary for us to obtain our ideal future. So there mustn't be any holes in our plan. We've gathered here to put together the perfect crime. Okay.
Rena has already done some work into planning a perfect crime.
As Rena said that, she pulled out a college-ruled notebook. She must have put her soul into writing down these thoughts. The paper was warped from intense writing, and some of the characters were blurry. Okay. My fucking monitor on my left side is glitching hella recently, and I definitely need to replace it soon. It's just constantly flashing and shit, so I'm gonna turn it off. Because it's giving me a headache. Anyways, yeah. Rena was clearly taking this seriously.
Any method of carrying out the actual murder should be fine. The key point is that nobody can determine the identity of the perpetrators. I think that alone is all that matters.
Indeed, there were many criminals out in the world struggling to conceal the truth of their crimes. But they usually ended up destroying themselves. Human beings are imperfect. If small mistakes are made here and there, some of them will line up and allow other people to put the pieces together. And that ultimately ends up casting suspicion on them, me playing Among Us.
In other words, we need to establish an alibi. That's right. So, all of us are going to attend Watanagashi tomorrow night.
But we'll actually be out killing Teppei, not going to the Watanagashi festival. Why wouldn't you just wait for a different night? Is there a reason it has to be Watanagashi, actually? Because it's the same night Keiichi chose during Tatari Garoshi, so... I guess it's because Satoko's not home, then? So, he's alone, but he had to lure Teppei out of the house, so couldn't you do that any night? I don't know, whatever. Rena responded to Shion with a deep nod. Are you suggesting that we all corroborate each other's alibi?
Yeah. We'll all be innocently enjoying Watanagashi tomorrow, as if nothing happened at all.
But in reality, we'll be taking Teppei Hojo's life with our own hands. Rena looked just like she did when she strangled that stuffed animal to death inside the station wagon. Keiichi, how do I put this? It's a stuffed animal. Wearing a completely nonchalant expression on her face.
Another thing we need to consider is the potential for eyewitnesses. Most of the villagers will be attending the festival.
Oh yeah, that's also why.
So I think it would be best to carry out the crime during that time frame.
We should kill Teppei in a place where nobody would ever go.
Anything can happen, so we need to get it done in the shortest possible time frame.
How long until someone references 1500 seconds? We assembled our plan to the best of our ability. This was neither a game nor a fantasy. It was reality. Actually, it is a game. I needed to feel something tangible, so I dug my nails into my knees, for reasons. Then a dull pain? You mean pain? Ran through my body.
With all that done, the perpetrators can vanish without any witnesses. Next, we need to determine how we'll eliminate all traces of the victim.
Eliminate all traces of the victim?
If the victim doesn't exist, there is no crime. It's as if nothing ever happened at all.
You're speaking about corpse disposal?
Yeah. We need to hide it somewhere it will never, under any circumstances, be found.
A place where nobody will ever find it. A vision of the Onigafuchi swamp suddenly flashed before my eyes. The bottomless swamp. The perfect stage for Teppei to meet his demise. What about the Onigafuchi swamp? Nobody would ever be able to find him if we put him there, right? Rena frowned in response to my suggestion.
Rena considered that at first too. But if you also thought of it, doesn't that mean anyone else could as well? The police would consider investigating Onigafuchi right away. If they searched the area with all their might, they'd find it quickly.
Yeah, good point, Rena.
We also need to consider how we're going to move the corpse.
We poured our heart and soul into devising the plan, tearing down earlier plans and rebuilding them from the ground up. After breaking it down and repeatedly reworking our plan, we settled on the simplest method. First, we'll invite Satoko to the festival to isolate Teppei. Then, we'll pose as a police officer and demand Teppei come to us. Teppei will probably head out on his motorcycle. There's only one road leading out of town from Satoko's house, and it has no streetlights. We'll set up an ambush in the dark by hanging black rope over the road. Once Teppei shows up on his motorcycle, Rena and Shion will pull on the ends of the rope. Teppei will fall off his bike. Then I'll swiftly move in to deliver the killing blow. Even though I asked Rena and Shion for their cooperation, I wanted to carry out the actual murder myself. I felt like it was my duty to keep the two of them from becoming murderers. At first, the two of them frowned at my suggestion, but I eventually managed to get through to them, and they were willing to leave everything to me. After the murder, the three of us will carry the corpse and bury it in a hole that we prepared in advance. This is literally the Tatari Garoshi strategy, just without the rope. Well, with a rope instead of nothing. Shion will drive the motorcycle into Onigafuchi Swamp. You're even doing that still. And Rena will dispose of the murder weapon. What about the rope? All that remains is the murder weapon. We all fell silent once again, overwhelmed by the fact that we were on the verge of killing a man. Then, I started staring down at the hand that would be holding the hypothetical murder weapon. It didn't feel real. But oddly enough, my heart didn't feel agitated. It was the peace of mind from not being alone, and the diluted sense of guilt due to not being alone. We stared each other down to evaluate everyone's convictions.
A steak knife or a kitchen knife would be easy to come by, but I think we should avoid using weapons that leave traces of blood.
Well, what if we strangled him with a rope?
That's too risky. What if he tries to fight back or run away?
Then, what else is there? Bludgeoning weapons, but that can still cause blood, I guess. I moved closer to Rena as I asked that. Rena looked up at the ceiling, searching for an answer. The next moment, Shion's shoulders began to tremble. Is she crying? Shion suddenly broke into a laugh.
Shi-chan?
What's wrong, Shion?
I just thought of something good.
She's gonna suggest Satoshi's bat. Something good?
The perfect weapon to take his last breath. A bat. Satoshi-kun's bat.
I knew it.
That way, Satoshi-kun can finally be at ease. How perfect would that be? Serves him right!
Shion kept on laughing as tears began spilling out. I suddenly began to shiver. You too, Rena?
Seriously, that's so perfect! To see that man suffering and struggling on the ground, pleading for help, and then looking down on him from above. Serves him right.
Kei-chan, you should be laughing with us.
Yeah, that man's death will be a joyous occasion.
Come on, Kei-chan, laugh with us.
Laugh, Keiichi-kun.
Laugh? Laugh? Laugh! Blah! I let out a deep laugh from the bottom of my gut. Despite our current situation, I roared with laughter. Once Teppei is gone, Satsuko will be happy again. That thought was so hilarious I couldn't help myself. Just laughing and laughing. A single teardrop escaped me for some reason. You know, very, very, very silly. Like, I get that these are teenagers, but it's so blatantly clear that they're also, you know, they're amateurs. If you're trying to erase the victim, you get entirely rid of the body. But not just the body, their existence. So you erase them from history. You know, with magical time powers. That's what I do. Like, I can even joke about it, and you guys don't know if I'm telling the truth. Like, hey, you guys, I can even say their name, because it's like, what are you gonna do? Look up the name and find out where I live? They don't exist. You don't know they exist. There's no record of them, because it's gone. Poof, gone. The former mayor of our town, Frank DiCarlo, he's gone. You're never gonna find him. He's a dead man. He's gone. Bye. He's not just dead, he never existed. Look it up. I mean, there's probably a guy named that, but you know what I mean. Anyways, let's make sure this phone stops fucking ringing. Suddenly, a lifeless sound brought me back to reality. I gently wiped my tears away before anyone could notice, then got up and left the room. After opening the door of my room, I was surrounded by the lukewarm air of the house and its distinct smell. It filled me with a cozy, nostalgic sensation. My normal, everyday life in this house, and a single corpse, will both undoubtedly disappear from this world tomorrow. Hello? Hello? Who is this? I could hear someone breathing softly on the other end of the phone. Hello? If this is a prank call, I'm hanging up. Hello? The caller hung up without making a sound. I felt a nagging discomfort as I hung up the receiver. Because the same thing happened with Shion, right? Then I turned on my heels and started heading back to my room. Once again, the telephone started ringing. I hesitated for a moment before putting my hand on the receiver. I didn't say anything and tried my best to discern the identity of the caller. Mion? Chan? Hey-chan? My concerns immediately vanished. It was Mion's voice. Mion? Kei-chan? Were you the one that called a minute ago? No, I didn't. Is something wrong? No, it's nothing. So, did you need something? Did something happen? Kei-chan, you're acting a little weird. Is there really nothing going on? Not really, no. That's good, but... about tomorrow? Well... Tomorrow? Yeah, the festival. The festival, huh? You're acting really strange. Are you sure you're alright? I'm still waking up, so my head still isn't on straight. What? You were asleep? I was enjoying a peaceful nap. At least until you woke me up, Mion. Sorry about that. I had to carefully choose my responses one word at a time to avoid making Mion suspicious. So you're coming to the festival tomorrow, right? I'm planning to go, but... But... what? No, I'm definitely going. I promised Rena that I'd go with her. Wow, you and Rena together. I could picture the sorrowful look in Mion's eyes at the other end of the phone. The loneliness of believing that your friends left you out. I knew that feeling, so I tried to find the words to make things right. You're going too, aren't you? Let's meet up once we get there. Right, yeah. Kei-chan, I was worried you might be spending the day alone. But if you're with Rena, that'll put my heart at ease. What is that supposed to mean? Sorry, it's nothing. Oh, I have to get going. Anyway, see you tomorrow. Good night. Mion hung up the phone without waiting for an answer. My stomach twisted as I set down the receiver. If I'm with Rena, I'll put Mion's heart at ease? I was consumed by an inexplicable insecurity as I pondered the meaning of those words. Did this phone call also happen in Higurashi? I can't remember. I feel like it did. Not wanting to be bogged down by those thoughts, I made my way back up the stairs toward my room, but I stopped myself before reaching the second floor. The door should have been closed, but it was open. The light from my room illuminated the dimly lit hallway, casting two shadows on the wall. But the two shadows quickly disappeared back into the room, as though they sensed my presence. Were they listening to my phone call? They followed behind me and concealed their breathing, so they could keep an eye on me. Why? We had already come to an agreement to protect each other's secrets. So, Rena and Shion were hiding behind the scenes, watching me to make sure I didn't leak any secrets. Could that be what the two of them were doing? Rena, Shion, and I. The three of us shared a firm, intricately intertwined bond. It'll stay with us for the rest of our lives. Even if it rusts and fades, our bond will last until we die. But somehow, it felt like the two of them were drifting farther and farther away. When I returned to my room, Rena and Shion welcomed me back as if nothing had happened. Seeing the smiles on their faces only made me feel more anxious.
That phone call just now. Who was it? Who was it?
Why would you ask something like that?
I was just worried. You've got a scary look on your face, Keiichi-kun.
That's because you guys were spying on me, hypocrite.
Keiichi-kun, you're not hiding anything from us, are you? Are you?
I'm not the one keeping secrets. What were the two of you doing, sneaking up behind me? I asked that in exasperation, but Rena just bit her lip and refused to answer. However, Shion stepped forward and pointed a challenging gaze at me. What on earth are you saying? Don't play dumb. You guys were eavesdropping on my phone call earlier, right?
Eavesdropping? That's a terrible accusation to make. Don't tell me. Are you suggesting that we do something like that?
What's that? You're denying it.
Keiichi-kun, you're getting cold feet, aren't you?
Rena muttered those words, then looked up at me with doubt in her eyes.
You didn't betray us, did you? You were telling that person something, Keiichi-kun.
Huh? Why would you think that?
You were going to trick me. You deceived me all this time, pretending to be my ally, but actually being a hypocrite. Filthy, 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 filthy!
Rena's delusions were taking a leap too far. The rage burning inside her left me stunned.
Did you think you could pull it off? Pathetic. You're pathetic, Keiichi-kun. You're a bad boy, Keiichi-kun. You're vile and wicked. You're asking for it. You're asking for Oyashiro-sama to get involved.
Her low-pitched laughter sounded like feet scraping along the floor. Rena flashed a death glare in my direction and rose to her feet as I stood there in bewilderment. Then she moved closer to me, closing in on her prey.
Who was it? Who were you talking to on the phone?
Rena opened her eyes wide with a bloodthirsty expression. I instinctively turned around to try and escape, but Shion was standing behind me to cut me off. Alright, so this took a twist. What's with you guys?
No way. That phone call earlier, it was from Sis, wasn't it? It was me, Chan. Why? Why would she call? Please be quiet, Rena.
Shion shut Rena down with an intense glare, then approached me.
What did you tell my sister?
We didn't really talk about anything. She just asked if I was going to the festival.
Was that really the only thing?
I fiercely nodded my head.
I can trust you, can't I?
I haven't done anything to be ashamed of. What about you guys? Can I trust you? Our eyes crossed as we tried to evaluate each other's convictions. Rena and Shion lightly nodded their heads, but was that a nod of agreement, or a solemn act of resignation? It's not the kind of thing that would tear apart our friendship, right? We need to stand together in our mission to help Satoko. We were shivering from the excitement, tension, and fear of being on the verge of carrying out a murder. That had all of us feeling especially nervous, so we were suspecting each other more than necessary. In the meantime, I decided it would be better to calm down and steady my breathing.
Anyway, why now? It's like she knew we were all gathered here. It's Sis, after all, so maybe she did notice something.
Aren't you overthinking it? There's no way Mion could know. She's not psychic or anything.
But Sis can use far more than just her own 2 eyes.
You think she has a 3rd eye hidden under her forehead? Sounds like you've been reading too much manga.
She has far more than 3. She has at least 100 eyes.
What? Is Mion some kind of monster?
Didn't I tell you before? This is Hinamizawa.
In other words, you're not just talking about Mion herself. So we should be wary of the entire village, too?
Even after everything is over tomorrow night, I think it would be best for us to stay on our guard for a while longer.
Right.
Rena has been thinking for a while, but...
After finally regaining her composure, Rena timidly interrupted when she saw the look on Shion's face.
Do you think we should tell Mii-chan our plan? Do you? Absolutely not. But Mii-chan is really worried about Satoko-chan too. Don't you think she would understand? Sis isn't the type to be swayed by personal matters. After all, she's the head of the Sonozaki family. We should assume she's no better than the villagers who resent Satoko. No, maybe even worse than them. Please consider her the last person in the world we want learning our plan. If Sis finds out about this, everything will fall apart.
As Rena listened to that explanation, her quiet breathing ceased and she once again began to tense up. And then, she started trembling so intensely that it was tearing into the tatami mats.
Rena will never forgive anyone who gets in the way. Never forgive. Never forgive. Never forgive!
No matter what happens, we can't let this plan fail. Even if that means betraying one of my old friends. Water? Noise! Why do I always say noise when I drink water? That isn't like me. Whatever. We all stared each other down, engraving our thoughts into each other's hearts. After a while, Shion picked up the notebook we casually set down. Then,
we need to do something about this.
We nodded in agreement, then headed to the parlor. There was a huge ashtray on the table, covered in dust. Rip, rip. Rena remained expressionless as she tore the notebook apart. Rip, Rip. Then, Shion took the pieces that fell out and cut them into even smaller pieces. I gathered the scraps and piled them on top of the ashtray, then grabbed a match. Okay, the fire wouldn't be that big. A single plume of smoke releases a small, pale flame began to burn. The flames sizzled as they spread, covering the white pages in black. We sat there silently, with our hearts crackling full of burning hot, murderous intent. I held my breath and watched as the flame slowly turned to ash. This was all for our ideal future. That was all we could think about. Once the flames burned out, all that remained was a pile of murky black ashes. Almost like the embodiment of the spirit of doubt that none of us could shake off. Shion slowly poured water over the ashtray to extinguish any lasting embers. The dice had been thrown. Murder is the only option. Wouldn't you want to clean out the ashtray so your parents don't think you were fucking smoking? Whatever. I returned to my room alone after Rena and Shion went home and tried to get some sleep. The insomnia I had been suffering for the past few days continued, but starting tomorrow, my nights will no longer be haunted by these depressing thoughts. I clenched my fist. I could feel the sensation of gripping a bat throughout my entire body. With these hands, I'm going to kill him! When I held my hand up to the darkness, it seems like I caught a glimpse of the future and the dazzling lights coming in through the gaps between my fingers. And so, my entire body tasted the sensation that I had never felt before. Okay. Alrighty. What's next? Are we into the murder land yet? Because this obviously isn't going to be a good ending. It would be kind of funny if it was, but it's obviously not gonna be. That fateful morning, I awakened to the sound of the fireworks that signified the opening of the festival. My entire body was filled with strength. I held a hand to my mouth because I couldn't help but laugh. A nutrient called hatred engorged my murderous intent. I skillfully concealed my beastly fangs as I opened the window. The sky was covered in thick clouds, signifying that a storm was approaching. The stage has been set. Maybe his death cries will be drowned out by the clamor of the storm. I can't wait for the exciting finale. As I made my way to the living room, Mom and Dad were having a relaxing coffee. When they saw me, they said good morning like usual. And I said good morning back to them like usual. That casual exchange felt so peaceful. But at the same time, I was keenly aware of the darkness eroding at the inside of my heart. Thanks for the food! The dining table was surrounded in harmony. My heart ached as I looked at my parents and saw that they knew nothing. Sorry. The Keiichi Mayabara that the two of you toiled to raise properly is already gone. I felt the same way when I started, erasing people from history. My kill count, it's like 47. It's increasing every day, but, and you're never gonna know when it increases. Actually, 48. I had a roommate who was really annoying, but now if you look back through my videos, you're gonna see all mentions of him gone, okay? He's gone poof. He's gone kerplunk. Do you guys remember Tony? No, you don't. No, you don't. He is gone. I love this bit. And I'm the one who erased him. I shoveled the food into my mouth to take my mind off my regrets. Then I ravenously chewed it to stave off my anxiety. I could feel my eyes glistening with murderous intent. I wiped the drool from my lips, then slowly rose to my feet. Thanks for making breakfast. I need to get going now. I headed straight toward the entrance without hesitation. 3 folding shovels were hidden in my backpack. Shovels that were bought to go camping as a family. Nobody could ever imagine that they'd be used as tools to commit a murder. I opened the door. I looked back just once and bid farewell to the life I'd been living until now. Then I made up my mind and took the first step down the road in front of me. The door closed behind my back. There was no longer a gentle cradle for me to lie in. Rejection and acceptance parted ways here and would never meet again. Mom, Dad, I'm no longer a person. I'm going to be a murderer. Then I cut off that train of thought. The constant self-torture and futile idealism were no longer necessary. I just need to be dedicated to what I desire. Farewell. That word was aimed at myself as well. I muttered that quietly, then sat down on my bike and started pushing the pedals. I let loose on my bike and flew past the dense forest on the way to the garbage mountain. I passed by a group of cheerful-looking kids along the way. They must be on their way to the shrine. A vision of Satoko overlapped on their smiling faces. I bet the Furude Shrine grounds will look gorgeous, fully decorated in a queer sunset. Covered in festive red and white curtains, and filled with so many hanging lanterns. The hum of the generators powering the street stalls. The voices of the children running about. And families smiling while watching it all. Today was the day of the Watanagashi festival. I wonder if everyone is already playing around out there. But what about Satoko? I hope she'll be able to forget about those painful days soon. I wonder how long it'll be until she can show off that dazzling smile. My legs were filled with strength as they pushed the pedals. As I clenched the handlebars, I could see the blood flowing through my veins on the pale white surface of my hands. I needed that new blood. I felt an uncanny sense of omnipotence driving me. That invincible feeling boosted me forward as the tailwind blew behind me. Suddenly, I felt a lifelike sensation on my back. Onward, onward, with 2 hands pushing on my back, pushing me forward toward the end of the world. Okay. When I traveled through the garbage mountain and entered the station wagon, Rena and Shion were already waiting for me.
Good morning, Kei-chan.
Good morning.
Did you sleep well? Did you?
Yeah, I had a really deep sleep for the first time in ages. Like I cast the demons out of me. Thud. After closing the door of the station wagon, an eerily oppressive sensation enveloped us. We couldn't help but tense up. Everyone forgot how to breathe. Sweat steadily poured out of me. The tense air filled the car and circled about, with no exit.
The preparations are already complete.
A single rope was resting in front of Rena and Shion. It was painted black, as we planned. Next to that was Satoshi's bat. I took the shovels out of my backpack and lined them up side by side. These 3 tools were gathered to open the path to our future. They had a profound presence, like 3 sacred treasures used in a ritual. A sound reminiscent of rusted metal faintly rang out. My body was growing more sensitive to the tension, so I jumped. Did anyone hear a sound just now?
Huh? What?
Rena and Shion tilted their heads and exchanged glances. Was that my imagination? I looked around inside the car. Then I noticed a huge black duffel bag hiding behind Rena. What's inside of there?
Huh?
I heard a sound coming from inside that bag.
What are you talking about? I didn't hear any sound. Are you sure you're not hearing things, Keiichi-kun?
Then show me what's inside.
Keiichi-kun, you're acting kinda scary.
I told you to show me!
What's going on?
You're scaring Rena-san. I'm sure I heard something. There was no sound! Shion stood in the way to shield Rena. Out of the way, Shion. No, I won't. You're acting weird, Kei-chan, and your face is terrifying. Rena and Shion banded together like they were contemplating an escape. They looked completely terrified as they stared at me. What's with you guys? A line of sweat dripped down my back. The pressure building up inside my body released a chill that ran along my skin, causing me to shiver. I slowly grabbed hold of Satoshi's bat. Open it. Rena's eyes were moist from the fear she couldn't hold back, but I urged her once more to open the bag. Rena looked nervous as she slowly unzipped the duffel bag. I swallowed my saliva in one huge gulp. Then she pulled out the contents of the bag, a set of 5 stacking boxes. The Rena special. All strength left my body at once. I struggled to avoid collapsing to the ground.
Because if we spend all day digging a big hole, sure we will get hungry.
And why didn't you just show me right away? I was sweating like mad over here.
I'm sorry, Keiichi-kun.
No, I'm sorry for yelling at you. Rena was pleasantly smiling. She looked relieved. I smiled back at her, though it betrayed the thoughts swirling around inside my head. That sound earlier, it couldn't have come from that zipper. It was a much stronger sound, with a much more destructive power behind it. A sound that pierced all the way through to my brain. It seemed like a sign, like it was trying to tell me something. Maybe my conscience was telling me I should turn back right away. Maybe I just didn't want to look ahead. Maybe I wanted to plug my ears and shut it out. I double-checked their preparations while packing the tools into my backpack. I could hear the cicadas crying far off in the distance. Then we all glanced at one another and rose to our feet. Let's go. We quietly crawled out of the station wagon, then carefully made our way over to Garbage Mountain one step at a time. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Looking back, even though the station wagon was maintaining its balance on unstable footing, I could see it lightly shaking, a sign that it was on the verge of collapse. I tried to shake off the disturbing thoughts running through my mind as we enthusiastically pushed through the Garbage Mountain. We decided to hide the corpse in a deep, deep forest past the canopy of trees. It was uncharted territory, the kind that wards off entry. It seemed like a miracle that we were able to travel here from the Garbage Mountain without anyone seeing us. When I looked up at the sky, I saw a thick, dark cloud that helped conceal our presence. Alright, even the heavens are on our side. This looks like a good spot to find some ingredients. No! I stabbed my shovel down at the point Shion indicated.
It's like a grave marker. For him, yeah. But for us, it's more like a monument.
Tonight will be his final night. And then we can celebrate this day every year. We can take pride in it. It's the anniversary of the day we made the right choice. Let's dig. I put my strength into my fingertips and pierced the surface of the soil over and over again. Shion and Rena joined in without saying a word, unrelentingly digging into the dirt, with our hearts full of hatred. Scrape, scrape. Our shovels pierced the ground at shallow angles. Thunk, thunk. We insatiably dug at the dry soil. Rena suddenly let out a soft laugh. Rena?
Well, around this time last year,
Rena looked far off in the distance.
Rena met Satoko-chan at the Garbage Mountain. I was so lonely at the time, feeling lost and crying alone. And Satoko-chan saw me like that.
Rena timidly shrugged her shoulders as she wiped the sweat from her forehead.
I smiled and told her nothing was wrong, but Satoko-chan looked so worried, and then she started to cry. She said, I can't help but cry if Rena-san is crying, so the two of us cried together. As we cried, she told me she knew what it was like to cry alone and not be able to stop yourself. When I saw Satoko-chan like that,
Rena suddenly began to smile.
I thought she was so cute and innocent that I suddenly stopped crying. And then I felt happy and laughed out loud. Satoko-chan seemed confused at first, but then she was able to laugh along with me. The two of us were shouting at the top of our lungs, non-stop. I was thinking back on that moment just now.
That sounds like Satoko, all right. For some reason, Shion's expression clouded over for a moment.
Back then, Satoko was suffering even more than Rena.
I thought back on how powerless I felt earlier, and put a hand on Rena's shoulder. That was the past. This is now. We're doing this together, for the sake of the future, right?
That's right.
Rena let out a quiet eh to herself, then picked up her shovel again. Scrape, scrape, thunk, thunk. We continued tirelessly digging the hole. The dig we dug out. The dirt we dug out was really starting to pile up. Just as the hole grew deeper and deeper, the pile grew bigger and bigger. Looking down the hole was like staring into the darkness of the abyss, like gazing into a black hole. I was likely to get sucked in if I didn't keep my wits about me. I took a deep breath, wiped the sweat away, and picked up the shovel. Scrape, scrape. The sweat was beading into globs on my forehead. Thunk, thunk. A dull pain coursed through my biceps. A refreshing breeze blew overhead, giving us the boost we needed to maintain our rhythm. After letting out that exclamation, Shion looked up toward the sky. Then her eyes began to wander.
Shi-chan?
Rena and I stopped digging and looked up.
I felt like someone patted my head just now.
Shion closed her eyes and stiffened her expression as she said that. Then...
I
could hear her shouting something, mixed in with her sobbing voice.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Shi-chan?
Suddenly, Shion began to scream. Oh, I thought that was just, like, crying noises. She scratched at her hair, then covered her mouth with both her hands and began trembling. Shion! What's wrong? I threw my shovel down and put my hands on Shion's shoulders. But Shion pushed me away immediately and incoherently mumbled to herself. Shion?
I'm definitely going to be killed.
Huh?
The curse of Oyashiro-sama will strike me down.
Maybe don't play that noise during the other piano song. I'm just saying, it sounded really fucking bad.
That's how things will end for me. It's too late to change it. I can't change anything, can I?
Shion, what are you saying? You're not going to be killed. Teppei is the one who's going to die.
That's right. Oyashiro-sama's curse shouldn't affect Shi-chan. I'm not the sort of person everyone thinks I am. I'm terrible. I'm a terrible person!
Shion wore a vacant expression with an empty look in her eyes. Stop it, Shion. You're not a bad person. You're doing the right thing. So there's no reason for you to feel guilty. Shion slowly shook her head.
No, I'm the worst. I've always been so much worse than Sis. I've done terrible things. Shi-chan, what are you talking about? The truth is,
I actually hated Satoko. A line of tears ran down Shion's cheeks as she squeezed those words out. Always clinging to Satoshi-kun, always depending on him. I resented Satoko for receiving all of Satoshi-kun's love and affection and taking it for granted. Honestly, I was envious. Satoko was always able to stay by his side. As I grew to like Satoshi-kun more and more, my hatred for Satoko grew beyond control. Huge tears began pouring out of Shion's eyes. She collapsed to the ground with both her hands in the dirt, then fiercely wiped the corner of her eyes with her muddy hands. Deep in my heart, I wished that if Oyashiro-sama really exists, Satoko should be the next one to suffer. Shion, that means Oyashiro-sama's definitely real, right? Because nothing could ever cause Satoko as much suffering as Satoshi-kun's disappearance. Even if we can't see it, it doesn't overlook a single word we say. It reads our minds, knowing everything we're thinking. Oh.
That's right. Oyashiro-sama exists.
Rena muttered that quietly, but with conviction in her voice.
Watching over us, even now.
We all fell silent, like we were all chained down or nailed in place. The cicadas cried out as if to laugh at us. A gust of wind blew by, causing the weeds by our feet to hum. I sensed a shadow moving closer to us, quickly and nimbly, moving like a whip, making the sound of footsteps in the vicinity. An eerie, out-of-place feeling ran through my entire body. Like some kind of parasite was trying to worm its way inside me, little by little. My throat felt incredibly thirsty. I felt an irresistible urge to scratch my entire body. These hallucinations were taking root deep inside me. Did something possess me to make me jump at shadows like this? Scrape, scrape, thunk, thunk. I instinctively resumed digging the hole, hoping to shake off the fear stirring in my heart. Sorry, I don't believe in supernatural stories, but I believe in both of you. We'll rescue Satoko with our own hands. That's the only thing I'm thinking about right now. My heart felt like it was about to shatter right now. I was afraid to stop moving my hands. Eventually, Shion slowly rose up to evaluate the situation. Then Shion took a shovel in hand, stood next to me, and began digging into the ground. Shion. Scrape, 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 scrape. Thunk, 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 thunk.
Kei-chan, I finally woke up thanks to you. I thought that saving Satoko would be a way to atone for Satoshi-kun. But now, I think that was a mistake. I didn't want to become like Satoko. I wanted to be like Satoshi-kun. So now, I want to become more like Satoshi-kun by helping Satoko.
Shion smiled in my direction with her face caked in mud. That expression reflected the weight that had been lifted off her shoulders from speaking her heart. For all the talking we do, we never communicate our real intentions, leaving behind gaps that clearly need filling. If I were ever to speak my true intentions so clearly, I fear my very existence would completely dry up. I was terrified of the madness it would entail. Scrape, scrape, thunk, thunk. In an effort to avoid their gaze, I stepped into the hole and started digging from within. I feared that I'd start to cry if I didn't focus on digging. I couldn't let these sentimental feelings sweep me away. Scrape, scrape, thunk, thunk. It's the same for me. That's why I have to help Satoko. For Satoshi's sake. As much as I resent Satoshi, I need to overcome my fear and finish this! Scrape, 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 scrape. Thunk, 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 thunk. Rena and Shion both followed my lead and climbed into the hole to start digging. Scrape, 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 scrape. Thunk, 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 thunk. There was no need for anyone to say anything more. We all kept quiet and the sweat kept flowing as we tirelessly toiled to dig the hole deeper. We all had thoughts locked away in our hearts. Wicked, forbidden thoughts. Even though we all noticed, we dared not ask one another. Even if we asked ourselves, there would be no answer. Our current cause was a righteous one, helping a friend. So there was no reason to waver. Any feelings of repentance would only shake our will to carry out this murder. Isn't that the case? All human beings have traces of something truly rotten buried deep within them. Luckily, some people are fortunate enough to live a carefree life and die in peace without ever sensing the smell of corruption emanating from them. Yet, anyone who realizes it on their own, or is otherwise made aware of it, will be able to see the hell waiting for them after the corruption spreads. How ironic. Any attempt to hide it only causes the wound to spread instead of healing, like this hole. Then someday, we'll be decaying too. Yo, that's crazy. Alrighty, well, I think I'm going to end this episode here. Not as funny as last episode, but definitely still had some very campy moments that felt self-indulgent on the part of the writers, but we'll see. I'd imagine we're pretty close to the end. I would venture to guess with the way that these arcs are, paced, next episode will probably be the last one of this arc. And yeah, so look forward to that. I sure will tomorrow if I have the time to, which I hopefully will. But yeah, that's going to be it for this episode, guys. If you liked it, then be sure to press the like button. And if you didn't like it, then fuck you too. Remember to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date on all my videos and stuff. And as always, my name is Godzi, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye! Yeah!